Welcome back to Raised by Giants, where we talk all things spirituality. I'm Ryder Lee. Tonight we have returning guest MK Ultra survivor Cathy O'Brien. But before I introduce her, check out Raised by Giants on Rokfin. It is a completely uncensored platform. Go over there, set up a free account, get all of my regular content I post here on YouTube and all of the other creators' content as well, and sign up for Rockfin's premium content, which is far less than a YouTube premium account at only $10 a month. And you'll get my premium uncensored content when it gets released and all of the other creators' premium uncensored content as well. Check the link in the description to sign up for the video streaming platform Rockfin. Also, check out C60 Purple Power. It is the most powerful antioxidant on the planet, helps with energy levels, skin problems, infections, eyesight, brain cognition, EMF radiation, and a lot more. It's a free radical sponge that gives your body the ability to heal itself. And if you use promo code GIANTS10 from the link in the description, you'll get 10% off your entire purchase. Highly recommend it. Been using it for over a year with my own money, and I wouldn't recommend something that doesn't work. So without further ado, introducing tonight's returning guest, Cathy O'Brien. Cathy was sold into MK Ultra's Project Monarch, one of the 149 known sub-projects of the CIA's MK Ultra experiments that began in 1953. These secret programs were initiated by governing jurisdictions in an effort to understand and utilize mind control to further another agenda. Being a victim of the elite's Monarch program as a slave, Cathy was exposed to many world leaders at the national and international levels. Through her rescue and healing process, she was able to reclaim the memories of what she had witnessed under the mind control. Her story provides insight into how we've been controlled in the past, where we're going as a nation, and how to reclaim personal and collective sovereignty. Hello and welcome back to the show, Cathy. It's wonderful to see you again. Thanks so much for coming back on. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity to bring truth to light.
Yes, thank you for coming back on. I appreciate it a lot. And I really enjoyed our last conversation. So I was like, hey, let's try and bring this thing to YouTube because I really think that I've put some things together that I want to get that I think are really interesting that I want to get your thoughts on. And it's always better talking to a wider audience too. So hopefully we can get away with it on this platform. But we really have to watch what we say on here. So unfortunately for the audience, just listen carefully and put two and two together here. We're going to have to take some liberties. The censors really don't like Cathy because what she's saying is real and it happened and it's continuing to happen. And certain individuals don't want that information getting out. So what I really want to focus on here tonight, Cathy, is your congressional hearing with the MK Ultra and the trauma you endured and the timeline of events leading up to the congressional hearing. So what year was it that you were first brought into the CIA MK Ultra Monarch program?
I was very, very young. And it was like the earliest 1960s. So this has been going on a long time. And Project Paperclip brought over the information on MK Ultra mind control with the Nazi and fascist scientists that were imported into the US. And then the CIA was taking that information and combining it with what the Catholics had long since learned about the effects of trauma on the human mind, and making a very powerful form of mind control. MK Ultra mind control is a very strategic, scientific formula that's deliberately designed to robotically control an individual or a nation, because ultimately it targets the way our brains respond to trauma. And I had been abused my whole life. I was born into an incest-based family, so I had multi-generational aspects to it, which is really important on why and how I became targeted for MK Ultra mind control. That information on mind control had found that after 3 generations, information becomes autogenic in the human brain. It's like how doctors are in one family, the father, the grandfather, and the information is passed down. Not only is the passion for that information and the information itself passed down, but it also starts becoming part of the brain process, much the way language is known through generations. So information is actually passed down from generation to generation. And that's what Project Monarch was all about, was a multi-generational aspect. So since I was born into a multi-generational family, then I was targeted for the CIA MK Ultra mind control project. And that was very early on. That was back in the 60s. It went on my whole life. It's still going on today. And there's reports that it stopped. It has not. It's only expanded into a global population. And what's important to know is that information on our mind-brain function, how our brains respond to trauma, has been suppressed from mental health, from society as a whole, and it's been covered up under a blanket of national security ever since this information came over with Project Paperclip. You can see that Project Paperclip and the 1947 National Security Act and the CIA were all happening right about the same time. And it was to contain this information, because just like we pass down information, if information is withheld through 3 generations, we tend to forget. And we all need to remember that we have within us a defense against mind manipulation, and we have within us the capacity to heal from trauma. And that's a very important thing. I think that everyone could use that information today to realize that it is within us all. And we just need to remember how to reclaim and retain our free thought. My life's experience certainly gave me that knowledge, and that's what I share and focus on primarily today.
Yeah, that brings up the question of what are they looking? Are they looking for specific qualities in a victim? I'm guessing previous trauma, like you stated, would be something they would look for. But I know at first they were using MK Ultra on impoverished communities, college students, prisoners. Sometimes they had an entire hospital wing that they were using. The MK Ultra
Yes.
sub project 35, a grant was given to Georgetown University Hospital in Washington, D.C. in 1955 for $375,000 for an MK Ultra wing of the hospital called the Gorman Building. So that project could be carried out by the agency without the awareness of the CIA interest. All this is documented. I've read all of the 149 sub projects of the MK Ultra declassified documents. And
Yeah.
I was like, yeah,
Excellent.
it's really interesting.
And I think impoverished people are targeted because they're not going to have the finances and the ability to file a lawsuit and to bring the information to light. It's very, very difficult to have a voice when you have no money. I know that for a fact. I've certainly been experiencing it ever since I've been blowing the whistle on this whole MK Ultra project. So people are targeted who don't have a voice or who are not considered to be credible. And my family was very poor until my father sold me into the project. Then he received lucrative military contracts after that, because that's the way it works if you're complying with the program. So
yeah, so you were sold into the program at a really young age. Is that how most people are put into these programs? Are they sold? Are they found on the street? Is it a bloodline thing? Like, how do most people get put into this MK Ultra or Monarch or any of the sub programs of MK Ultra?
I think there's many different ways that it happens, but our children are definitely targeted in the school system, and our children are the ones who are always being targeted for MK Ultra mind control, because if their knowledge base is altered through the so-called education system and are indoctrinated with a basis of misinformation, like history has been rewritten in the education system since global education was put in the 80s. As soon as the states became reliant on federal funding, then this MK Ultra was brought into the school system, and the knowledge base was altered, and the federal government, this criminal faction behind the federal government, operating under total secrecy, hiding under a blanket of national security, was then using this within the school system. And they were also being able to identify children who were abused or highly suggestible. Trauma is a basis of mind control, and any kind of abuse creates a heightened suggestibility. In an incest-based family, all those generations down, the children after 3 generations are born more compliant, easily led, and highly suggestible. That's why I was targeted. So they're always looking for people who have a heightened suggestibility from either multi-generational trauma of the moment, or whatever. But that's ultimately what they're looking for, is whoever will comply. Not willingly, that's not necessary, because it's a subconscious mind that is being manipulated, and it's the knowledge base that's being manipulated. When you consider that we all formulate our thoughts, our opinions, and our actions based on what we know, we need to know that knowledge base has been deliberately altered. Like I was saying at the beginning, pertinent information on mind-brain function, which is our defense against mind control, which is our defense against any kind of trauma, and so that we can heal from that. Instead of staying in this victim mentality, we can rise above that. We have that capacity. That information was suppressed for over 3 generations very deliberately. So we start to see how information control takes its toll on the human mind, and then we get the heightened suggestibility, and you have the compliant society that is necessary for this globalist agenda that we're all experiencing today under the guise of a great reset, or whatever they want to call it, the new world order, whatever global thing they want to call it. The point is, it's a slave society agenda, and I think people are really, really catching on to that. Ever since the trauma was imposed on humanity a couple years ago, where everyone started to have, I believe it was called mass formation psychosis, which is another term for brainwashing or mind control. I call it mind control because that was just the level that I was used on. That was the level that I was exposed to, and that's what is strategically and scientifically implemented on NASA and military installations.
Now, from my understanding, Cathy, not very many people survived the MK Ultra process, and the ones that did were eventually killed when they, ran out of usefulness or became too big of a problem. Because why would you let anyone survive? Because they're just going to, talk about it, right? And that blows the whistle on the whole operation. And you're a special case because you were saved by a member of the intelligence community. But what happens to the people that aren't saved by a person in the intelligence community or the intelligence community in a whole? In other words, how expendable are the assets in these programs?
Well, usually any kind of trauma, any kind of childhood abuse starts to surface around age 30, because we get electrochemical changes in our brain about that time, and the neuron pathways in our brain are opening up. And so repressed memory, which trauma causes, can surface around age 30. So when you see certain entertainers who are definitely under MK Ultra mind control, turning around age 30, that's when their programming starts to break up and they look like they've gone berserk. They'll shave their head or whatever. And at a time like that, they're usually sent to mind control programming epicenter. Like the underworld of Disney World is a very common one. Disney's been heavily involved. And we especially hear Disney associated with that entertainment industry. So I think that's a good public one to point out. But others are killed. And many who worked on a White House Pentagon level, like I did during the Reagan-Bush administration, were killed at places like Bohemian Grove or sacrificed when they turn age 30. And when I was turning age 30, that is exactly when intelligence insider Mark Phillips, rescued my daughter, me, right out of the Washington, D.C. swamp and handed me keys to my own mind so that I could heal from within. Like I said, we have this ability within us. We all forgot. And it's easy to remember. And he showed me how to heal and from that trauma, to reclaim and retain my free thought. So I was very, very fortunate in that regard and was able to heal from within myself. And that's what I'm so excited about today, is to remind everybody, hey, we are blessed with this amazing capability within us to heal from any kind of trauma, from any kind of mind manipulation, to reclaim and retain our free thought forever. And it's amazing that we have this potential within us, and everybody really just needs to be reminded the same way that Mark reminded me, so that we can all safeguard this going forward and evolve back with the knowledge that is our birthright and that we should have had to begin with.
Now, just to establish an example here, let's say a normal everyday person was put into one of these MK Ultra programs, not a part of any bloodline. What would you say the percentage rate of them actually getting out of that program alive and actually surviving like you did?
It's just amazing right now. I mean, back when I was in the project, it was so pervasive, and I think I was among the very first vocal survivors to be able to heal and come screaming out of that hell that nobody wanted to believe existed. And yet now the survivors are everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody is remembering. Everybody's coming out of the program, especially in the entertainment industry, which is why I brought that up earlier. There's a lot of entertainers talking about it and bringing it out. So much so that there's a major effort underway to divert and dilute the truth of MK Ultra mind control, just calling it an LSD experiment, and that people are just having LSD flashbacks. That's not true at all. The LSD did not work in MK Ultra mind control, and it was part of a project at one time, but it didn't work for mind control programming. So it's absolutely not true. And nevertheless, there's this huge effort to dilute the information, dilute the truth, censor the truth, and keep people from knowing exactly what's going on. But the numbers are so vast that the information is coming out anyway. And I'm so excited to see that many survivors coming out and making it to this point. And I deal with survivors every single day, giving them the information in that Mark gave me, which I've posted on my website in PTSD Time to Heal. It's easy to self-apply, simple information like doing a brain trick, like writing out memory. by writing out memory, it activates the critical analysis part of the brain to move a pen. It activates the logic portion of the brain. So it takes this emotionally incomprehensible trauma that's been compartmentalized within the brain, opens those neuron pathways up, shifts the information over where it's logically processed, and then written out in front where it's consciously seen and can be dealt with. So all of a sudden you got healing going on, so many levels all at once, psychiatrically, psychologically, emotionally, everything. It's all healing at once. And it's so important for us to remember that moving a pen is a way of processing information. That's why handwriting has been taken out of our school systems, because that allows for indoctrination of the children instead of allowing them the critical analysis free thought of processing information. So now we just get fact checkers telling us what's real instead of researching it for ourselves. We need to pick up that pen again and start writing things out, processing information, activate that part of our brain again, and start researching things for ourselves, including what MK Ultra mind control is all about, including information that we're not discussing today that is all over my website. I have secured information on my website so that people can research it. And then once you research it there, research it further. Don't ever just believe one person. We got to start researching, getting expanding our thinking to think for ourselves and process information again, because then we're going to learn to discern truth again, and we're not going to be misled by a controlled media voice that is really disrupting the peace and harmony of society that comes naturally when people are living their free thought, free will, strength of spirit. We need to get back to that. All of us do. And so everybody should be researching further.
Oh, yes, I 100% agree. Check out Cathy's website if you're interested in healing your trauma or taking care of your PTSD. Now, I really want to get back to the MK Ultra aspect here. And Monarch was one of the sub projects of MK Ultra. MK Ultra had 149 sub projects, and Monarch was one of these sub projects. Now, I wouldn't be doing my due diligence without saying that I could not find the Monarch program under the 149 declassified documents that I went through. But it's difficult because every website that I went to had the names of the sub projects redacted, right? But I still couldn't find a description that matched the Monarch program. But I still believe it exists because the CIA did, in later years of the MK Ultra programs, they started outsourcing their projects to private companies while the intelligence community financed it. And that's the way that they had plausible deniability and didn't have to keep a record of the project. So what was the Monarch program narrative? What was the Monarch program intended to accomplish, basically?
It's the multi-generational aspect. It's that effect of trauma on the human mind after 3 generations, creating a heightened suggestibility. It was knowing that that the way that information is contained can affect people after 3 generations. So if people are indoctrinated within a school system for 3 generations of misinformation, it becomes more autogenic. They just accept that as the absolute truth instead of looking further. For example, we can look at how much influence the pharmaceutical companies have within the school systems for indoctrinating doctors. And then the doctors promote the drugs of the pharmaceutical companies. We got this financial thing going on. Well, after so many generations, this kind of medicine training is what is been passed down through generations, and it becomes autogenic within the brain as well, instead of realizing that we have this amazing immune system that we've been born with, that we can activate ourselves, that we have this capacity to be able to regulate our blood pressure and our heart rate and different things, these different aspects that we can do to maintain our own health. It's an indoctrination within education on genetically altering food, for example, too, which is very closely aligned with the pharmaceutical companies. Instead of sticking with the genetic aspect of it, instead of sticking with organics, instead of sticking with what's natural, we have gone into this whole other direction of farming that's being taught. And so after so many generations, that becomes more autogenic. Not only is it being taught, not only is it being promoted in advertisements on television to continue to perpetuate the money to these companies that are running the education and indoctrinating people with this information, but it becomes so autogenic that in combination with the suppression of pertinent information on mind-brain function and healing under national security all these generations, it changes the basic dynamic within us on how we respond to life itself and how we live our lives. And we're getting further and further away from the amazing capabilities that we have. And as we lose our free thought to these manipulations, then we lose our free will, soul expression, our strength of spirit, our purpose, why we're here, what we're really living this life for. When we live on that level, that's where we are at peace. And world peace begins within us all. And that's where we unite naturally, because we have compassion, we care for each other, we listen to what each other has to say. But as soon as any kind of mind control enters in, whether it's information control or robotic mind control, like I experienced, the first thing that goes is compassion. The first thing that goes is an ability to hear what someone else is saying, because it's like program is screaming so loud in the head that it's missed. New information and processing that information is missed, especially when we take writing by hand out of the school system. So we're losing this ability to process information, hear each other, have compassion, and connect. We need to get back to that. We need to reclaim all of our free thought, open the neuron pathways in our brain, realize the amazing potential that we've been born with, and take that forward into society. Make sure we're putting good nutrition into our bodies again. Take care of our bodies on that level. And as we start doing all this, we're not going to have any need for big pharma and big government telling us how to live our lives. It's natural, and we have peace. And it's part of an amazing process that we all need to reclaim and stop this handful who want to dominate society and make all the money. I mean, how much power and money does somebody need to have? It just doesn't make any sense to me. These people don't think like we do. They don't like us, and they're just not like us at all. I've been around them. I know they're very different. We need to realize we share this planet with them and stop following their lead, because they're misleading us down a very, very shallow and linear way of life. We need to retain our wisdom. Wisdom outthinks a criminal mind every time, instead of trying to go this artificial intelligence direction that is just so linear and flat thinking. We need the magnitude of the beauty of all that we are, so that we can live the love we are and reach out to each other with understanding and compassion and care.
Absolutely, I agree. And people don't really realize that the antidepressants, the anti-anxiety medications all came out of the testing from MK Ultra.
Yes.
Came out of those all of those declassified programs, out of the 149 declassified programs. But what's interesting is that the Monarch program almost sounds like it's it's the conclusion to the MK Ultra programs, because from my understanding, there's levels to the Monarch program, and not everyone is programmed to do the same thing. And
Right.
you can tell me if I got this right or not. If you could, I'm going to go over some of the different programmings here, and if you could briefly comment on each of these, Cathy, that would be great. And well, before I start into that, uh, it's after the mind fracturing process, which is done in a myriad of ways. The consciousness, the slave is fractured, and the compartmentalization is created, and that's what creates what is called alters. And these alters can be programmed to do certain tasks when activated with a certain phrase, hand signal, or visual stimulation. And the first kind of programming, and you can tell me if I'm right on this or not, it's called alpha programming, which is general programming, and it includes giving a photographic memory to the slave to record everything that that certain alter sees or hears. Is this correct and something that happens within this program?
Somewhat. It's also an automatic brain function for the brain to record events surrounding trauma. It's the way our brains work. It's like some kind of a defense mechanism. It's like why when people are in a traumatic situation and they see maybe a hit and run, that then they actually photographically do remember the license plate on the car that they didn't even pay attention to at the time because of the trauma, but they still saw it all. So our brains photographically record events surrounding trauma. It's like why when I say 911, everybody sees the airplane flying into the Twin Towers. Or when I say the Kennedy assassination, we all see the bullet going into Kennedy's head. That's the way our brains record events surrounding trauma. So it's very photographic. That photographic memory was then capitalized on because they thought, what better place to keep government secrets than in the mind of someone who can't think to bring it to mind? So the trauma is imposed, and then the programming, which is photographically recorded, follows.
Thank you. And the next one is beta programming, which is sexual programming, which I would say would be you as a presidential model. I don't know really how to, I guess they discreetly service presidents, royalty, and other high ranking government officials, and they regularly hang around the White House. Can you discreetly comment on this? I know this is a huge part of your story, but it's also a triggering for the algorithms as well. But I do want to get your comments on this kind of programming.
Well, again, when like in Monarch, it was because I was incest based. And because of the incest, my sexuality was heightened. And therefore, I was used to fulfill perversions, many times which were filmed. And it's a blackmail operation as much as anything else. So when we hear of places um, where perversions are carried out, it's usually for the purposes of blackmail. And that's just the way the business is run among these criminals at the very top of this agenda. So, yeah, it's definitely used that way.
The next one is Delta programming, which is assassination programming. Certain alters trained in combat, assassination, and espionage, essentially a Manchurian candidate program. Is this something real that's happening?
It's something very real, but it's not what I was exposed to because since I was being used on a sexual level, they didn't want to cross that over. You don't add an element of danger to it. One of my first handler was a CIA assassin, though, that was programmed accordingly, like what you're saying there. And he was also an occult serial killer, so he was trained in the occultism direction as well. And that was a trauma to me. So that was just further traumatization that was used on me. So sometimes people who are programmed differently are put together for very strategic purposes.
Right. Thank you. I'm just going over these to kind of get your comments on them. And I know that you haven't experienced them, but just to get a confirmation on what you know about them. So the next one is theta programming, which I am going very deep dive on this right now. And the theta programming is a psychic killer programming, which psychic assassins are able to cause aneurysms from anywhere to anyone at basically any time. You know anything about theta programming?
Not exactly like that. There's so many different variations and technological aspects that are used in conjunction with, and many belief systems like in voodoo or something like that can actually come into that as well. But when a person is severely traumatized from birth, like I was, then it causes the conscious mind to take flight, and there's no ability to think, no free thought. And when there's no free thought, it's like the brain gets blasted into other parts of the brain that are very primitive, that include heightened intuitions, very much abilities to, like, for telepathic communications and different understandings like that. So there's those aspects, and how far it goes and how far it's been perfected, I really don't know. I just know that the intuitions that I gained from my experience in MK Ultra are something that I carry forward with me today, because those aren't lost. And it's not that they're good or bad. It's something that's innate to us, and something that maybe we all need to access again and start remembering, so we can um, have the intuitive aspects of life, come back in as well. It gives us an ability to have a lot of compassion for other people and to reach out to others. There's some positives that come with that. So it's something I'm in control of it now that I'm in control of my own mind. And it's amazing to me what we're all mentally capable of when we consciously realize what we've been blessed with and given all along.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because some of the MK Ultra sub projects were intended to create these kind of psychic soldiers. The CIA was very interested in the DIA's remote viewing
Yeah,
programs,
yeah.
and I believe that they did in fact take over the Stargate project, and they just renamed it and created something different out of it. And because if you look at Project Spellbinder, trying to, it's very similar to, a psychic kind of manipulation or a psychic assassin. But the next one is gamma programming, which is deception programming. And these alters are trained as deceivers, right? And they spread disinformation in this community or anywhere or abroad on the media or anything. And I think that this one is a really clear depiction of what a lot of us have experienced in and out of this community as to too. So what do you say about the gamma programming, the deception programming?
I'm not so familiar with that in that regard. It's not something that I experienced, but there's no reason why that wouldn't be used. I mean, there's no limit to what they can have someone believe. And and then when you look at like the CIA, they're trained to be the formula for rat poison, where it's 99% nutritious for the rat and it's the last 1% that gets you. So we have to be careful of misinformation and use a lot of discernment, because there's so much of it that is out there. And there are other projects, like Mockingbird and everything else, that definitely make sure the misinformation's out there, including what was done to our education system. So we all need to find our own truth within us again, so that we can start discerning truth when it's presented around us.
Absolutely, I agree. And the last one is Omega programming, which is suicide programming. Alters are programmed for self mutilation and suicide.
Well, suicide programming, these are not exactly the way that I'm familiar with those. I do know that back in the day, spies used to take a cyanide pill so that they wouldn't spill the secrets. And now, MK Ultra mind control programming can go in so deep as to affect breathing and heartbeat, where a person will just die before revealing the secrets, unless they deprogram that program. And that is within us all to be able to deprogram even that depth of programming. When we look at special forces, military special forces, they have the no time to bleed program, where military special forces guy can take a bullet and keep on going and not bleed, and be able to complete his mission. Well, we have those capabilities. If it can be programmed from the outside to affect heartbeat and blood flow to that degree, imagine what we can do with the power of our own mind. We forgot that we have those abilities, and we need to get back to that so that we can start realizing the healing capabilities that we have within ourselves. But instead, the information has been suppressed so that it can be used in top secret operations instead. There's also ways of being able to increase like visual acuity, 44 times visual acuity, so that a soldier can point and shoot without missing them. And they're going to get it right there. And that 44 times visual acuity is also even used in sports, which is ridiculous, but nevertheless it's used there too. But this 44 time visual acuity is like having eyes in the back of the head. If we have that much capacity that it can be manipulated from the outside, again, imagine what we can do when we realize our own innate capabilities from within ourselves. We're able to actually, help improve our own vision. And it's amazing the things that we're capable of when we remember. And MK Ultra Mind Control has so many secrets like that have been kept from the population, that are really our innate birthright, that we have a right to know and a need to know. And it's time that MK Ultra Mind Control is completely exposed. Knowledge is our defense against mind control. And once we have that knowledge that's our defense against mind control, we can at that point start exploring the abilities that we were born with that have been suppressed for so long. We just simply need to remember. Again, I send people to my website, trance-formation.com, for the information in PTSD Time to Heal, because it goes into all of those aspects. It's very small and very simple, because truth is simple. It's lies that are complicated, but when we remember our truth within, it opens up so many doors to possibility. And it's really exciting where humanity goes from here. Now that MK Ultra Mind Control is being exposed, thanks to people like you bringing it to light so comprehensively here, where we go from here is going to be purely evolutionary. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too, Cathy. So so your testimony that you gave to Congress, it was validated by U.S. Customs, Secret Service,
Yes.
and the intelligence community, right? But
Yes.
Congress still censored your testimony based on national security, even though it was validated by intelligence communities, Secret Service, and U.S. Customs.
Yeah, that's probably why they invoked national security, due to who and what I remember in the details that were validated. You know, you look at people like William von Raab, who was head of U.S. Customs at the time. He did everything he could to bring that truth to light to the American people, that information was being censored, that national security was being invoked on criminal activity to cover it up and allow for it to proliferate across open borders. The drug and human trafficking that was going on. William von Raab was talking about back in the late 80s. You know, he's an amazing person. There were many good people that were trying to get that information out. But, you know, again, national security was invoked. It was kept out of the media. The media censored it. And so it was with my whole testimony. That is documented in Transformation of America.
What approximate year or date did you give this testimony to Congress that you can remember?
The testimony was to be given in 1995, was censored from Congress under national security. So it was put into book form at that time and distributed to every member of Congress, both houses. A U.S. congressman helped get that information to everybody's hands, so that it wasn't just going by courier. It was going congressman to congressman, because we need to realize there are good people in all levels of government, all levels of intelligence. I don't know about the FBI, but that's its own thing. But nevertheless, there's good people in everything. And the information itself is neither good nor bad. We need to know the truth that makes us free, and realize that good people everywhere are being censored from bringing this truth to light. Because once we reclaim our free thought, free will, strength of spirit, then we get rid of these puppet masters that are making so much money off of their manipulation of our minds. Truth really does make us free.
I agree 100%. And see, here's what I think happened, Cathy. I think you and Mark spooked them hardcore, right? You made them acknowledge what they had done and that these programs actually existed. And if there's one thing that the government and intelligence community hates doing, is taking responsibility, right? So they had to make it a national security matter in order to cover their tracks. So what I think they done, they thought to themselves, how do we keep this from happening again? Right? How do we keep any of the countless MK Ultra survivors from coming forward with real information, with real factual evidence and testimony about what we're doing to them, right? That they're being used as drug mules, intelligence operation, coercion, prostitution, assassins, spying, and a whole host of different things. Right? And I think they were like, I know the perfect cover for that. Right. And they went back to their lab. They thought up of this genius plan. Right. Let's make them believe they were in space fighting aliens. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And get everyone talking about that so that the real stuff that's happening on Earth can be covered up. And we won't have another Cathy O'Brien on our hands testifying in front of Congress about the very real operations that we've been doing on the planet, right? Because if you get people talking about something that's fake, but similar enough to the truth,
Yeah.
they will always opt in for the most extravagant story, and the real story can be brushed under the rug.
Exactly right. And if it goes etherical, then people think it's beyond their realm to affect. In fact, this is within our realm to affect, and they definitely try to make it look like it's not. And I also think it's funny that now that on like on the internet, they cover it up. You look up, you look me up on Wikipedia, and it says I'm a conspiracy theorist. And it's like,
mm,
they invoke national security on conspiracy theories. It's like,
mm.
what? So they keep coming up with these ways to try to divert and dilute attention from truth. But the truth is out there and it's coming out, and they can't silence it. They So many government secrets and personal reputations were staked on their belief that I couldn't be deprogrammed to remember those things I'd been tortured to forget. They were wrong. You should have seen their faces when they tried to trigger me and it wouldn't work, and I would just laugh at them. It shifted their paradigm, and they need to have their paradigm shifted once and for all. When everybody, everywhere, um, arms themselves with truth that makes us free, with the knowledge that is our defense against mind control, and stops complying with this agenda that manipulates our minds. Free thought is sacred. This is our time. This is our time to shine. They're done.
Yeah, and it's what I'm really starting to, really put together is I know that some people, and you may be friends with some people that say that they're a part of this secret space program and the super soldier whistleblower stuff. But I'm really coming to believe that that stuff is another part of the mind control, and it's implanted on purpose, right? Because if they can make you forget certain things within the MK Ultra programs, which I believe was the original reason to start the program to begin with, was to see if they can remove memories in soldiers or high up personnel in the intelligence
Yeah.
community that had classified information. So if they can remove someone's memories, then they can sure as hell implant things as well. And it's not, far out of the realm of possibility, I say. I mean, they can literally depattern your mind to remove normal patterns of thinking and behavior, and then subject you to what's known as psychic driving, which can be done with a continuous audio looped message or a TV screen with a loop.
Yeah.
And they can essentially make you believe anything that they want, right?
Yes.
Like you were in space, a space astronaut fighting aliens on Mars for 20 years, and then you were age regress back to the exact same point that you were taking to cover up what they were really doing. I think that they would legitimately go that far to cover up the real operations that they're doing on the planet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And PTSD Time to Heal shows how to get through that kind of manipulation and false memory aspect. And it's really quite simple. And it's within us all to heal, no matter what we've been subjected to. Their days are numbered. The truth is coming out, and truth really does make us free. This is our time.
And then when you really think about it, I don't mean to keep pounding on the SSP and the super soldiers and people, but it's just a really interesting topic that I've just really been going into hardcore. And when you think about it, the secret space program has everything all rolled up into one, right? It's a conspiracy burrito, right?
Yeah.
You got the MK Ultra stuff, you got the Montauk stuff, you got the Monarch, the mind control, advanced technology, portals, stargates, time travel, jump rooms, space, aliens, UFOs, alien bases on Mars and the moon, regenerative technology, spacesuits, clone cyborgs, laser guns, and interdimensional travel. Right? It's like they've just wrapped up everything into one. Right? But the only thing that does match up and the only thing that does make sense, Cathy, is the MK Ultra programs.
Yeah.
And that is literally the only legitimate thing that any of these SSP whistleblowers talk about. And none of them go into depth about it, right? They just brush over it like it was just a part of the process for them to go to Mars to fight aliens. Because I believe only a select few of these actual SSP whistleblowers actually went through any form of MK Ultra programming. And no, not one of them, talk about how they got out of it either, right? Not one.
Wow.
The excuse is that they were age regressed back to the time that they were taken as a young child, which again
Doesn't work.
makes absolutely no sense.
No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. And I know that you have friends and you've heard people talk about this, and I do too, but they really do. I really do believe that they implanted people with memories of something that didn't happen in order to cover up the clandestine and covert intelligence and military operations that they were doing to people on the planet. And
Absolutely.
that's
Absolutely. There's several themes that are used, and that is definitely one of them. And again, there's ways to remember around that, but people need this information. They need to know that it's within them to heal. And mental health has not been taught the information, the simple mind brain function that's in PTSD Time to Heal, that allows people to sort through the imposed nonsense to get to the truth.
exactly. And in my eyes, too, the biggest reason that I bring this up, Cathy, is because I believe that these SSP whistleblowers and super soldier people, in a lot of ways, are discrediting your story, right?
Yes.
They're,
Oh, absolutely. That's intended. That was intended all along.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're making it about this.
Dilute the truth.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That's exactly
Mhm.
what they're
They
doing.
do.
Just
I
like
agree.
they did to the UFO community and the real rudimentary
Yes.
secret space programs,
Yes.
right?
Let's get to the truth. We got so many amazing things to discover and explore out there now,
Yeah,
but we got to get.
they all just came in and shook it all up, right? In
Mhm.
order to discredit the real operations and make people look Looney Tunes for even mentioning it, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. And I try and do everything that I can to get to the bottom of things on this show and really bring the truth as I see it. And some people might not agree with me, some people might not agree with you, but that's just my thought process on what I think is going on. And they will use anything in their arsenal to try and create a fake story or a fake narrative to cover up whatever it is that they're doing because they do not want to ever take responsibility ever
That's right.
on anything that they've done.
Right. They're going to have to. They're going to have to. Truth is coming out. This is our time.
Yeah, I agree. Was there anything else that you wanted to comment on, Cathy, before I let you go? We're coming up on the hour here.
I think we've revealed a lot this in this conversation, and I really appreciate this discussion and go in this direction. This has just been real helpful, and I think it'll open a lot of eyes to possibility, and above all, research. Everybody needs to research for themselves, not just believe one person, not just believe one book, and start cross-referencing things. We have a lot of truth to uncover and remember.
Thank you so much, Cathy, for coming on. I very much enjoyed the conversation. Can you let people know where they can find you? Plug your website, plug your documentary, plug your books.
Yes, the movie Trance movie is available on my website. All my books are secured there, my blogs, uh, interviews. There's so much on my website. It's all secured at trance-formation.com, TRANCE hyphen formation.com. You can also contact me through there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. The links to all of Cathy's information will be in the description of this video. I highly recommend you check out her work and read her books and watch her documentary. It's fabulous. For everyone else, thanks for watching and listening. Much love to everyone in the chat. Please be sure to hit the thumbs up button, help the channel out in the YouTube algorithm, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon as well for notifications. The link to my channel on Rokfin is in the description. Sign up over there, hit the follow button for my premium content. Also, you can catch this episode and any of my other episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Google Podcasts, and download them individually to your device for free on Spreaker.com. Thank you again so much, Cathy. I appreciate your time here this evening. Would love to have you back on sometime.
Great. I love that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Keep bringing
And
that truth out there. We need it.
thank you. And remember, we're not only in a spiritual war, but a war on humanity. Stay aware, stay alert, keep loving your heart for everyone, stay safe out there. And if you can see through the illusion, you are the solution. See you guys next time.